All right, let's bring in Dan Arbella. This is the former deputy chief of mission at the Israeli embassy. Welcome, Dan. I think, as I said, we understand President Trump is in support of what Israel did in this circumstance. It did pick out at the beginning of his quote something interesting, which is that nothing is going to jeopardize this ceasefire. And I think the question from what I've been hearing on the Israeli side is that, is it too much from the U.S. in terms of, don't let anything get in the way, and does Israel almost feel like its hands are tied to some extent?
Yeah, so the U.S. is the linchpin to this whole deal implementation. And Trump's determination to pursue this, no matter what, is what's holding it together and what would ensure down the road, continued implementation into the next few phases of the deal. Certainly, Israel is kind of doing it kicking and screaming, agreeing to Trump's request to, issue attacking, but then stopping the attacks and not totally breaking the ceasefire altogether and returning to full scale fighting. But certainly, while not Israel's arguing it's not losing its independence, however, we're seeing that Trump is kind of holding Netanyahu's hand and is not letting him go to where he wants to go, which is resume the fighting, I think.
At some point, the goal is to get, or part of it is to get Hamas to disarm. As part of all of this, I had Jonathan Conricus, former IDF spokesman, here in this New York studio with us on yesterday's show, and we were talking about all of this. And you were talking about going back to full-scale war. Here's what he said.
King Abdullah of Jordan, he gave an interview a few days ago where he was the first one to actually say out in the open that Hamas isn't going to disarm. They don't talk about disarming and they don't act as if they're going to disarm. If Hamas continues to violate, I don't think Israel will have too many choices. We're not there yet, but the things on the ground, they're leading towards that direction.
All right. You agree with that, Dan? Is that the direction we're going?
Yeah, definitely, that's the direction we're going, and these are very huge tasks. Disarming Hamas, how do you do that actually, practically? How do you confiscate all their weapons? Are they going to play along and be willing to give up their weapons? That's one thing. Demilitarizing the Gaza Strip, it's also a mighty task. And so all this depends on strong U.S. leadership here, and the mediators, those Arab countries that have been kind of speaking on behalf of Hamas, putting pressure on Hamas to do so. But it's very, very difficult right now to see Hamas agreeing to this. And unfortunately, if that's the case, then we will see some sort of resumption of hostilities in a more major way.
Would it include other countries, though, I think is one of the key questions other than Israel? Or does Israel have to, or would Israel, if it says, well, hey, we got to move in, they're on their own, or they're going to have help, or how do you see it all playing out?
In terms of fighting, then I think Israel is on its own, and I don't think that other countries will be there. But other countries do want to step in and help stabilize Gaza as part of a future international stabilization force if the ceasefire continues and if Hamas really gives up its arms. But these countries won't send troops or peacekeepers as long as Hamas is armed. They don't want to put their soldiers in harm's way, and so that won't happen until this very delicate process of disarming Hamas happens.
All right, Dan, we appreciate your time. Dan Arbella with us today.